my newly married sister proudly declared. We're beginning our new life together after my parents demanded my home for the couple. So, I replied, begin your life just the way I did, on my own. It all started innocently enough, just a regular Sunday dinner at my parents' place. For context, I'm a software engineer, and my downtown apartment isn't just a place to live. It's practically my life's work. I bought it 3 years ago, but getting there was a brutal 6-year grind. I lived with roommates in places that made me question my life choices, ate more ramen than I ever want to admit, and worked overtime until my eyes burned. This apartment isn't huge, just a 1-bedroom, but it's in a fantastic location, and more importantly, every square inch of it is mine. It represents every sacrifice, every late night, everything I've worked for since college. My younger sister, Emma, who's 26, got engaged to Ryan about 6 months ago. I was genuinely happy for her. Ryan seemed like a decent guy, and Emma was absolutely glowing. My parents, Robert and Linda, immediately dove headfirst into wedding planning mode. That seemed normal enough, right? Until last Sunday. We were all at dinner, and my mother cleared her throat. You know, that specific throat clearing that means a big, official announcement is coming. Jake, she started, her voice a little too sweet. Your father and I have been discussing Emma's wedding gift situation. I just nodded, figuring they'd ask me to chip in for some fancy kitchen gadget or maybe help with general wedding costs. Sure, I said. What were you thinking? I've already budgeted about $2,000 for her gift. My dad, without missing a beat, set his fork down with a clink. That's very generous, son, but we were thinking of something more substantial. Your apartment would be perfect for the newlyweds. I actually laughed. I genuinely thought it was a joke, right? Oh, you mean they can borrow it for their honeymoon weekend? Or maybe when friends are in town. I could crash with friends. But my mother's voice was firm, almost condescending, like she was explaining something incredibly obvious to a very slow child. No, Jake. We mean as their wedding gift. You'd transfer the deed to Emma and Ryan. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. Emma was staring fixedly at her plate, practically trying to melt into it. Ryan was looking anywhere but at me, his eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. And my parents? They were just watching me, expectant, waiting. You want me to give away my apartment? I asked, the words barely forming, still not quite grasping the reality of what they were saying. The one I bought with my own money? The one I'm still paying the mortgage on? Don't be dramatic, my father snapped, his tone dismissive. You're single. You can easily rent something smaller. Newlyweds need proper housing more than a bachelor does. It's about priorities, Jake. Family comes first. But it's my apartment. I practically shouted, the disbelief warring with a rapidly rising anger. I worked for years to afford it. My mother reached across the table, her hand heading for mine as if to console me, but I instinctively pulled back. Sweetheart, she cooed. When you get married, we'll help you too. But right now, Emma needs it more. You're successful. You can afford another place. Think of it as investing in your sister's happiness. Mom, that's not an investment. I shot back, my voice shaking with fury. That's giving away my largest asset. And what do you mean, help me too? You're not helping. You're asking me to give away my home. Emma finally spoke up, her voice small, almost a whisper. Jake, I didn't know they were going to ask this, but Ryan and I have been looking at rentals, and everything's so expensive. Your neighborhood has good schools for when we have kids. You don't have kids. You're not even married yet. I retorted, staring at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. But we will, Ryan chimed in, suddenly finding his voice, and it was dripping with a nauseating faux reasonableness. And it makes sense to be settled before that happens. You understand, right? You're the successful older brother. You've always looked out for Emma. The sheer, naked manipulation was so blatant, it was almost impressive. It hit me then. They'd clearly discussed this. My parents had probably been planning this ambush for weeks, maybe even months. Looking out for her doesn't mean making myself homeless, I said, pushing my chair back with a scrape and standing up. This is insane. I can't believe you're seriously asking this. My father's face hardened, turning cold and menacing. We're not asking, Jake. We're telling you what's right. You've always been selfish about your success. Your sister is starting a family. You're just living the bachelor life, which matters more. My financial security matters. My home matters. The fact that I worked my ass off for this matters. I yelled, my voice cracking. Language, my mother primly interjected, completely missing the point. And this attitude is exactly why you're still single. No woman wants a man who puts material possessions over family. That was it. That was the final, gut-wrenching straw. I grabbed my jacket, the material rough against my clenched fists, and headed for the door. Jake, please. Can't we discuss this? Emma called after me, her voice now genuinely upset. There's nothing to discuss. I shouted back, already halfway out. The answer is no. It will always be no. My father's voice, full of venom and disappointment, followed me into the night. You walk out that door, and you're walking out on this family. We raised you better than this. I left anyway. It's been 3 days now. My phone has been absolutely blowing up with messages. My mother sent several long, rambling texts about how disappointed she was, how she never thought her son could be so selfish, how Emma was crying because her brother didn't love her enough to help her start her married life properly. My father sent just one, short, brutal message. A real man provides for his family. Apparently, I raised a boy. Emma has sent a few texts, apologizing, but always asking if we could work something out. Maybe I could sell them the apartment at a family discount, or just let them live there for a few years to save up. Even some aunts and cousins, having heard various twisted versions of the story, reached out, most suggesting I should compromise somehow. None of them, however, offered up their own homes. But here's the thing, I don't feel guilty. I feel angry. This apartment isn't just walls and a roof to me. It's proof that I made it, despite my parents always favoring Emma. She got a car for her 16th birthday. I got a bus pass. She got her college fully paid for. I took out loans I only just finished paying off last year. She got a down payment for her first apartment after college. I got told to figure it out like an adult. I worked for everything I have, and now they want me to hand over my biggest accomplishment, my most significant asset, just because Emma is getting married? It's unfathomable. What happened next completely changed my perspective. After that initial explosion, things actually got worse before they got better. My parents launched a full-blown campaign to turn the extended family against me. They told everyone I was refusing to help Emma with even a small wedding gift, that I was hoarding wealth while my sister struggled. They conveniently left out the tiny detail that the small gift they were referring to was my entire apartment. Then, last Tuesday, I got a call out of the blue. It was my uncle Marcus, my dad's older brother. Marcus had always been the black sheep of the family, moving across the country years ago after some falling out with my grandparents that no one ever talked about. Jake, he said, without any preamble. I heard Robert's version of what's happening. Now tell me yours. I told him everything. The outrageous demand, the blatant manipulation, the guilt-tripping, the family campaign against me. When I finished, there was a long, heavy silence. Jesus Christ, he finally muttered, his voice laced with disbelief and a chilling familiarity. They're really doing it again. Doing what again? I asked, my heart pounding. Marcus sighed, a sound heavy with years of unspoken history. Kid, there's something you need to know about your father and my parents, your grandparents. When I was 28, I started a business. I worked 18-hour days, lived on nothing, built it from scratch. 2 years in, it was finally taking off. That's when your grandparents decided your father, who had just gotten married to your mother, needed it more. My stomach dropped. What? They pressured me for months to sign over my business to Robert. Said he had a wife to support, that I was single and could just start over. When I refused, they turned the entire family against me. Sound familiar? It was like a punch to the gut. That's why you left? That's why I left. And you know what the kicker is? Robert ran that business into the ground within 18 months. But by then, I was already gone. And he'd learned he could manipulate situations to get what he wanted. Looks like he's teaching Emma the same lesson. Marcus offered to fly out and support me, but more importantly, he gave me crucial advice. Document everything. Every text, every email, every voicemail. And Jake, the fact that Emma knew nothing about this beforehand? She might not have planned it, but she sure as hell didn't shut it down. He was absolutely right. I went back through our text exchanges, and Emma's messages were incredibly revealing. Not once did she say the request was inappropriate or crazy. She only apologized for how it was presented and kept suggesting alternatives that all, coincidentally, involved me giving up my apartment. I decided to test her. I texted Emma. If you really had no idea about mom and dad's plan, then you'll tell them publicly that you don't want my apartment and that the request was inappropriate. Her response was chillingly telling. Jake, that would embarrass them. Can't we just work this out privately? Maybe you could rent it to us at below market rate. So, she was embarrassed about embarrassing them, but not about them trying to take my home. Got it. I then did something that might have been petty, but it felt absolutely necessary. I created a family group email with every single relative who had been contacting me and laid out the facts. Point 1. My parents wanted me to transfer the deed of my apartment to Emma as a wedding gift. Point 2. This apartment was purchased entirely with my own money. Point 3. I was still paying the mortgage. Point 4. At no point had my parents offered any compensation. Point 5. They were now punishing me for saying no to giving away my largest asset. I attached screenshots of the text messages from my parents and Emma. The response was immediate and sharply divided. Some relatives were utterly shocked and sided with me. Others, particularly from my parents' generation, still thought I should help family, but admitted asking for the apartment was a bit much. My parents were absolutely furious. My father called me, screaming about airing family business and how I'd ruined Emma's wedding happiness. My mother sent a long email about how I'd destroyed the family and how she was so ashamed of me she couldn't face her book club. But here's where it gets truly interesting. Uncle Marcus, being the astute man he is, reached out to some other relatives privately and learned this wasn't the first time my parents had pulled this kind of thing. Apparently, they had pressured my cousin Sarah to give Emma her designer wedding dress from just 2 years ago because Emma deserved it more, and Sarah was already married. Sarah had refused, and they'd made her life hell for months. The pattern was becoming sickeningly clear. My parents had created a dynamic where Emma was always entitled to what others had earned, because she needed it more or deserved it more. And anyone who refused was instantly labeled selfish and anti-family. Marcus flew in last weekend. I wasn't there for the initial confrontation, but the look on my father's face when his brother walked into their house must have been priceless. Marcus told me about it later. Robert, he'd said, his voice steel, you're doing to your son exactly what mom and dad did to me. Except this time, I'm here to make sure Jake doesn't lose his family over your greed. My parents tried to argue, to deny, but Marcus shut them down. He pointed out that they'd paid for Emma's college, but not mine, that they'd given her multiple financial gifts over the years while telling me to be independent. And now they wanted me to subsidize her marriage with my home. You created this disparity, Marcus had told them. And now you want Jake to pay for it, literally with the roof over his head. That's not family, that's exploitation. Emma was there and, apparently, started crying, saying this was all getting out of hand, and she just wanted everyone to get along. Marcus asked her point blank, do you think you're entitled to your brother's apartment? She couldn't answer. She just kept crying and saying it wasn't supposed to be like this. Ryan, to his credit or discredit, depending on how you look at it, finally spoke up and said they'd withdraw the request for the apartment. But the damage was done. He'd shown his true colors. He had been perfectly willing to take my home if I had been pressured enough to give it up. As of now, I'm not going to Emma's wedding. I'm not giving them any gift, not even the original $2,000 I'd budgeted. My parents are barely speaking to me, though they've stopped actively campaigning against me since Marcus's intervention and my email expose. The family is still divided. Some think I'm right to stand my ground, while others still believe I should be the bigger person and give Emma something substantial, though no one dares suggest the apartment anymore. But you know what? I genuinely don't care. I'm sitting here in my apartment, the one I earned, writing this. Uncle Marcus is staying with me for a few more days, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I have someone in my family who truly understands me. 6 months later, and I wanted to give a final update now that the dust has finally settled and Emma's wedding has come and gone. A lot has happened, and I finally feel like I have closure on this whole situation. First, the wedding. It happened 2 months ago, and as I mentioned, I didn't attend. Emma and Ryan got married at the venue my parents paid for, with all the trimmings they wanted. From what I heard from cousins who did attend, it was a beautiful event, though there was apparently some tension when people asked where I was. My parents told everyone I had a work emergency. Uncle Marcus, who also didn't attend in solidarity with me, made sure key family members knew the real reason. The divide in the family has actually solidified into something interesting. The younger generation mostly supports me, while the older generation is split between those who think family should share everything and those who've had their own painful experiences with my parents' manipulation. But here's where things get really, really interesting. About 3 weeks after the wedding, Emma called me. Not a text, an actual phone call. She was crying, and for once, it sounded genuine. "Jake, I need to apologize," she choked out. Like, really apologize. Not just say sorry to make things go away. I was skeptical, but I decided to hear her out. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, nowhere near my apartment. Emma looked different, tired, maybe, or just completely worn down. "Ryan left," she said, without preamble, the words tumbling out. I nearly spit out my coffee. "What? It's been 3 weeks." She laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Yeah, well, apparently when he realized he wasn't getting a free apartment and that you weren't the endless ATM he thought you were, he decided I wasn't worth it. He actually said, and I quote, 'I thought your family had money. Your brother has that nice apartment, and your parents were always giving you stuff.' The irony was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. He was a gold digger. The funny thing is, Emma confessed, I don't think he started that way. But when mom and dad started promising him your things, he got comfortable with the idea that marrying me meant marrying into wealth. Wealth that wasn't even theirs to promise. She told me that after Marcus's visit, Ryan had started pushing her to repair the relationship with me to get access to my apartment again. When she refused, saying she was starting to see how wrong it all was, he became distant. He left 2 days before our meeting, saying he needed to reconsider their financial future. "Jake," Emma said, looking me directly in the eye for the first time in months, her gaze raw and honest. "I've been the spoiled favorite my whole life. I knew it, but I never thought about what it cost you. Mom and dad made me believe I deserved everything I got, and that you having to work for things was just normal character building for the son, protection for the daughter." It was the most honest she'd ever been with me. She went on to explain how Marcus had reached out to her after the wedding drama and shared stories about the insidious family patterns, about how their parents had created a toxic dynamic that went back generations. "I'm getting therapy," she said, her voice stronger now. "And I'm getting a job. A real job, not the part-time thing mom said was enough for a girl like me. I need to learn how to stand on my own 2 feet." I appreciated her honesty, but I wasn't ready to forgive and forget. Too much had happened, too many years of feeling overlooked and exploited. I told her as much. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said, a glimmer of humility in her eyes. "I'm just asking for a chance to prove I can be better. Maybe we can work toward being actual siblings instead of whatever we were before." We've met for coffee a few times since then. It's still awkward, but she's really trying. She even proudly showed me her pay stubs from her new job, beaming about earning her own money for the first time. It's a start. As for my parents, that's far more complicated. After Ryan left and Emma started therapy, she confronted them about the years of favoritism and manipulation. From what she told me, it did not go well. They denied everything, said she was being influenced by Marcus and me, and even threatened to cut off the financial support they still provided. Emma, with a newfound strength, called their bluff. She moved out of the apartment they were paying for and got a smaller place with roommates. The last I heard, my parents were in utter shock that both their children had abandoned them. Marcus has been my absolute rock through all of this. He stayed in touch, calling weekly, visiting every couple of months. He's teaching me about setting boundaries, about recognizing manipulation. He's also shared more about our family history, patterns of control and favoritism that go back generations. "You broke the cycle, Jake," he told me during his last visit. "You stood up and said, 'No.' That takes real courage." The best part? Marcus helped me understand that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about mutual respect and genuine care. He's shown me more real family support in 6 months than my parents showed me in 30 years. My apartment has become even more meaningful to me now. It's not just my home. It's the symbol of my independence and self-worth. I've actually started having friends over more, building my chosen family. I even hosted Thanksgiving for other family black sheep and orphans, people whose families didn't appreciate them. Marcus flew in for it. It was, honestly, the best holiday I've ever had. My parents have reached out a few times, tentatively testing the waters. They've never apologized, but they've hinted that everyone should move past this drama. I've made it absolutely clear that any relationship with them going forward will be on my terms, and it will require a genuine acknowledgement of their behavior. The wedding gift situation. In the end, Emma got what she actually needed, a reality check and a chance to grow as a person. Ryan showed his true colors before they could waste years together. My parents learned that their control has limits. And I learned that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's absolutely necessary. To everyone who supported me through my original post and updates, thank you. Your validation helped me realize I wasn't crazy, that what was being asked of me was absolutely insane. You helped me find my spine. And to anyone facing similar family pressure, remember this. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Your accomplishments are yours. Your home is yours. Anyone who truly loves you wouldn't ask you to sacrifice your security for their comfort. Uncle Marcus said something that really stuck with me. Real family multiplies joy and divides sorrow. They don't divide your assets and multiply your sorrow. I'm keeping my apartment. I'm building my boundaries. And for the first time in my life, I'm defining what family means to me. Looking back on everything that's happened, I'm struck by how much one firm no can change your entire life. If I'd given into the pressure, I'd have lost more than my apartment. I'd have lost my self-respect and reinforced a toxic pattern that would have continued forever. Emma and I are slowly, painstakingly building something resembling a healthy sibling relationship. She's been in therapy for 4 months now and has started recognizing how our parents' favoritism damaged both of us. Her by making her entitled and dependent, me by making me feel less valued. She's working full-time now and recently excitedly told me she'd saved her first $1,000. It might seem small, but for someone who never had to save before, it's monumental. Ryan disappeared completely after the divorce papers were filed. Emma says she dodged a bullet, and I agree. Anyone willing to take someone else's home as a wedding gift has serious character issues. My parents remain largely unchanged. They've shifted their narrative from Jake is selfish to we don't know what happened to tear our family apart. They refuse to acknowledge their role in any of this. I've accepted that they may never change, and I'm okay with that. My relationship with them, if it continues at all, will be surface level at best. Uncle Marcus has become the father figure I never knew I needed. He's teaching me about investing, about business, about standing strong in your convictions. He recently told me he's proud of me, and I nearly cried. I couldn't remember the last time my actual father said those words without wanting something in return. The extended family has largely moved on to other drama, though I've noticed a shift. Other cousins have started standing up to unreasonable requests, citing my situation as a precedent. One cousin, Sarah, even reached out to thank me for breaking the spell and showing her it was okay to say no to family manipulation. My apartment has become my sanctuary. Every mortgage payment I make reminds me that I earned this. I deserve this, and no one can take it from me. I've renovated the kitchen with my year-end bonus and turned the spare alcove into a home office. Every improvement I make is a celebration of my independence. The most important lesson I've learned is that guilt is not an indicator of wrongdoing. I felt guilty initially for saying no, but that guilt was programmed into me by years of being told that my needs came second to Emma's wants. Guilt can be a manipulation tool, and recognizing that has been profoundly liberating. I've also learned that family patterns repeat until someone breaks them. My father learned from his parents that you could pressure relatives into giving up their assets. He passed that entitlement to Emma. But it stops here. If I ever have children, they'll learn that you earn what you have. You respect what others have earned. And family means supporting each other's growth, not cannibalizing each other's success. To those who asked if I regret not going to the wedding, I don't. Attending would have sent the message that everything was okay, that they could treat me this way and still have my presence at family events. Boundaries without consequences aren't boundaries at all. Someone asked if I think Emma and I can ever have a normal relationship. Honestly, we're building something new. It won't be normal because our past wasn't normal, but it might be honest, and that's infinitely better than what we had before. The situation with my parents taught me that sometimes the price of keeping the peace is just too high. If peace requires you to sacrifice your financial security, your home, your self-worth, it's not peace. It's oppression with a smile. I still live in my apartment. I still love my apartment. And every time I unlock my door, I'm reminded that this is what standing up for yourself looks like. It looks like coming home to a place no one can take from you. So, tell me, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced this kind of shocking entitlement from your own family? I really want to hear your stories in the comments below. Let's talk about it.